gentlemen, our guest today is Mr. Prashant Mehra, President and CEO SRF for packaging films business, coated fabrics and laminated fabrics. He is a classic example of talent and hard work making it to the leadership echelons. I read it, sir. Even I've been an EA to the chairman at one point of time in Reliance. And from there, you are become the CEO of an MNC. What a journey, sir. Thanks for addressing our petchem and packaging colleagues today at Insights with Nidhi.
Thank you, Nidhi. It's my pleasure as well to be talking to you. And whatever I have learned, I'll be very happy to share with you.
Sir, you are presently, that means the group, in technical textiles, packaging films, fluorochemicals, specialty chemicals, with a group turnover of 1 billion. Technical textiles and chemicals are basically industrial applications, and packaging films may cater to the FMCG segment, considered a more safe segment as of now, the consumer business. Your customer profiles are diverse. Please share with us how these businesses are performing in each segment worldwide in the present times.
Well, you rightly said that the technical textiles and the specialty chemicals, it's not just specialty chemicals. We've got a business as part of the chemicals business, which is the fluorochemicals business as well. And these are largely the industrial side. And whereas we cater more to the FMCG side, which, as you rightly said, because of being part of the essentials, is a safer. But on the other hand, I would say that while some of the businesses did suffer in terms of COVID and some of the plants were shut, but apart from technical textiles, the chemicals business, because it caters to the pharma industry and to the agro industry, was very quick to come back again. And I'm happy to share with you that, pharma and the chemicals is also an equally safe, I would say, option at this point of time. And therefore, but for technical textiles, which I'm sure would also come to the capacity soon, I think everything is doing okay at this point of time.
And that's a good news. So which are the applications or specific products that you see are going to witness growth in the coming times also, not only for this pandemic period?
Well, I can very specifically, let me first talk about my business, which is the packaging films. And just to give you a very brief about the packaging films business of SRF, Nidhi, I'm sure you are aware that as of now, we are located in India. Of course, we've got factories in Indore. We've got a factory in Indore in a special economic zone and a domestic tariff area. We've got a factory in Thailand where we produce polyester. We've got our one big plant in South Africa, in Durban, where we produce polypropylene. And very soon we are starting up a new greenfield big site in Hungary, very close to Budapest, where we are setting up polyester. So therefore, SRF's packaging films business is present both into polyester as well as polypropylene. As far as the applications which I see, in general, I believe the flexible packaging is here to stay. Everything you are in will grow in packaging films business, but within which, especially related to this coronavirus and this COVID pandemic, the areas which will see much faster growth will be the food segment, because more and more safety of food and hygiene of food will become important. And the second is the home and personal care. What is happening is people are not moving out. And even if they move, it will take a time. So people would want to eat more at home. So ready to eat kind of foods, or you will cook at home. And even if you cook at home, you will have to get packaged food from outside. So whether it is pulses or rice or any other spices. So therefore, I see a particularly big growth happening in both the home and personal care, which is your soaps and shampoos and detergents and washing powders, as well as on the food side. So these two particular segments. Then even in the industrial application, let's say thick polyester films can be used or are being used as safety masks or safety sheets. Yeah. So that is a segment which will grow. Even things like packing your one big segment, for example, the demand of shampoo, it boomed because of the sachets. Now, who knows, very soon you will find these sachets of sanitizers coming up. And what will it be packed in? It will be packed in flexible packaging. So I believe these segments in particular will grow at a very, very fast pace.
So there is a huge capacity for growth in the verticals that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. Nidhi, there is an application already we know, which is wet wipes. Now, wet wipes also come in flexible packaging. Now, instead of wet wipes, if these were ethyl alcohol-based wipes, which can be used for cleaning surfaces, and so again, use of flexible packaging there. So, this would lead to a spurt in growth in the hygiene side and the food side.
Yes, so everything becomes unitized now, and more unitized, more packaging will automatically, the volume will go up.
And a smaller unit, which one can carry as well.
Sir, you actually are doing more than 2 lakh MT of PT and BOPP films in all the plants that you mentioned.
Right.
Being present in geographies across the world, there would have been different challenges that would have been come in different countries. Would you like to share with us few learnings, because you have the opportunity of being multinational?
So just to first to give some specific numbers on the capacity side, you said. So to tell you honestly, our capacity has just recently got increased. We were fortunate enough to start a new polyester film plant in Thailand in the month of April. So our capacity is now 240,000 tons to be precise, of which polyester is about 180,000 tons and polypropylene is 60,000 tons. And very soon, this 240 is becoming 280 because as I mentioned, the Hungary plant of polyester, another 40,000 tons is getting started.
Super.
Now, as far as my learnings, therefore, so different regions. So I can tell you the Thailand and South African operations, while they also were sort of, I would say, taken aback for a few days. However, the operations more or less ran smoothly. So I would say in terms of, was there a plant stoppage there? No. In Thailand and in South Africa, plant wasn't stopped, operations ran. Yes, they would have ran at a little lower capacity. It took some time for a little bit of supply chain issues to get sorted out. But however, I would rate on a scale of 10, the operations went down to 9 and then came back to 10. So it was as smooth as that. If you look at India, now India, honestly, if you ask me, we got shut, end of March. And we started early April. However, lots of difficulties. And especially, the difficulties were on the supply chain side. And the supply chain means arranging the raw materials. Even if you were to arrange the raw materials, there were B and C category items. To run a plant, unless everything works, you can't start a plant.
True.
Including the smallest of items, the B and C category items. So, sometimes we were waiting for the pallets to arrive. Sometimes we were waiting for the cores to arrive. And arranging this whole supply chain was honestly a big problem. And therefore, we could only gradually, despite the demand being there. So our customers were there asking for material, and precisely for the reasons I mentioned, because we were part of essentials, whether it was food or whether it was safety or hygiene. However, producing them and then making them available was a big challenge. And on the other hand, even this whole issue of contractual labor itself, where suddenly people started traveling back to their cities and getting them back or requesting them not to go, it was a big challenge by itself. Last but not the least, in the right spirit, the governments came up with many circulars. Now, unfortunately, the intent of a circular versus how it gets implemented is different in a different location. And therefore, this disconnect between what was the intent versus how it got implemented, because the implementation of a circular is also done by a policeman who's standing on the road. So sometimes the buses which were carrying our people, despite being part of the essential services, were stopped and asked questions. So these were the kind of challenges we faced in India. In Hungary, it was simple because it was part of Europe where things were also pretty bad. It went into sort of a complete shutdown. It was also in the project stage, and therefore the people, the engineers went back, and it has only started very recently, let's say about 2 weeks back. So this is how the different scenarios were there.
So in India, you did face challenges, because there was almost a complete lockdown, and then there was a differential of the intent of the policy and how it practically got implemented at the local level. Now it's becoming a little better.
Definitely, it has become better. Honestly, I must tell you that our operations are now back to 100%. But the challenge of, I would say, the contractual labor still remains.
How do you think that that gap is going to be met? Are you going into automation, or you're hiring new people? What is, and then skill managing them?
Well, thankfully, one is all SRF plants have already been automated fairly well. So we believe that we are quite ahead in this whole journey of digitalization and automation.
What did you see any advantages as compared to your competitors because you are located across the world? Did you see any perceptible advantages?
So very clearly there were advantages. We were closer to customers. The lead times were shorter wherever they were, and therefore we could rise to the occasion of servicing their needs at a much shorter lead times. The other advantages is that even if India was closed and some of my customer wanted material and I were to ship it from India, we shipped the material to them from Thailand or from South Africa. So it was a very, very clear, distinct advantage of multi-locational in this sense. And please understand, most of our customers are also multinationals who they are present across geographies. So for them, because we've got a sort of a global approval with them, whether supplying from India or Thailand or South Africa doesn't make a difference as long as we cater to their requirements in time. So definitely a very, very clear advantage.
Prashant, sir, you are closer to many markets in many geographies. So where are you focusing for exports from India, as you are the largest exporter of PT films for packaging?
That is true. We are by far the largest polyester film exporter. And well, to be honest, all geographies again. So we are a very large exporter to European Union. We export to Americas, both North America, South America. We export to Africa large, and a little lesser to Asia because we've already got a plant of polyester film in Thailand, and therefore we cater from Thailand to the Asian market. So presence is all across.
How the export markets are doing compared to the domestic markets, as the economies are slowly opening up? They are in different curves of opening up. So how do you see a distinct difference in markets overseas and in India?
So Nidhi, again, there I must tell you that but for India, we never saw, even in places like Italy and Spain, which were so badly hit, the factories shutting down. So the demand continued. To be honest, the demand was huge, humongous. People wanted to buy twice because everyone was so scared of the supply chain issues that they were placing orders which was 2 times their usual requirements. So therefore, in terms of the export requirements, they actually never came down. It only increased during this period. Whereas in India, the demand existed, but the factories could not run and the supply chain issue wasn't there. However, now I am seeing now that when the things are becoming a little more normal, people are saying that yes, we did buy more because of the uncertainty of the supply chain. So hold on, things are a bit stable as of now. It's not as if a lesser growth, but more of a stability at this point of time.
Well taken. The world has witnessed a price variation in the resin because of the crude oil impact like we've not seen for a very, very long time. You are producing your own chips. So how did this resin price variation impact you, sir?
Well, a typical business like ours, 50 to 60% of the cost is raw material. And yes, because of this situation, there was a massive volatility, the prices went down. So the only thing is that, first of all, we buy largely domestic. We import less, and because you buy domestic, the stocks are lesser. Nevertheless, there is a stock impact. You can only minimize those stock impacts. So to an extent, yes, we did face these issues on account of the volatility in pricing, but I think we were quite safe.
How do you see the rest of the quarters of 2020 and then getting into 2021 unfolding for your business in terms of whether raw material prices or the demand coming back more than stable, as you said in the last question?
So Nidhi, I'm a very, very positive man. I believe that this business is fundamentally very strong. It is based on fundamentals. It is based on the habits of people eating and hygiene. Now, how can that go away? If I just mentioned in my previous question that this demand is only likely to go up. So the demand will continue to grow. The only issue is that the supply is also coming up. For example, my plant is starting and many other factories are also starting. And commodities, the pricing of a commodity is dependent on basically on two things. One is the input, which is the raw material, and second is the supply demand, which is market determines the price. So in the shorter term, both I would say on raw materials and on the finished goods, there will be a pressure on pricing. Both while on pricing, the demand will be good, but the supply will also be good. And raw materials will remain under pressure because at a global level, some of the countries are talking of an economic recession and all, and therefore the oil prices will remain subdued. As a result, the petrochemical products will remain subdued. So resin, I would say subdued, and similarly the film pricing also a little bit under pressure.
How has the pandemic affected your capex plans? I understand the Hungary plant is coming back, but you must have had some other planning where you would have wanted to invest in or increase your capex. Are you going to be changing that?
Well, I can only tell you that we've grown very, very quickly. In about 2005, we were a 5,000 tons per year company, and in 2020, we are 280,000. And I must also tell you, so it's a multi-fold growth for us. So I must also tell you that as I said, we are also in the process of setting up a new BOPP factory in Thailand. So next year, our capacity will move to 330,000 tons. However, because of this pandemic, yes, it is a time for us to take a pause. Pause in the sense, and a pause for a few months, I would say, couple of months, to assess the situation in terms of liquidity, in terms of cash flows, to assess what will be a clearer market scenario going forward. But this will happen for only a couple of months. SRF is very determined that we will grow this business further. We have very, very clear plans laid out in Thailand, in Europe, in South Africa, in India, and maybe new geographies. So wait for a few months and you will hear more.
Yes, we are keenly looking forward for what you're going to be rolling out after a few months. The international players like, say, Taglief and Toray, Topan, etc., they make very high value products like applications in solar energy, optical films, electric battery related, electronic devices, touch screen, lithium battery, and the kinds. Do you have any niche plans for such applications in SRF?
Well, all the products you have talked belong to the category of products which is called as thick polyester films. These are largely the sort of industrial applications. SRF as of now has been largely into thin polyester films, largely for, as I said, flexible packaging applications for food and for home and personal care and hygiene kind of products. Now, please understand, within the thin film segment also, there are many niche segments, very high value added products. And one of the ways, and by the way, I'm sure we are a public limited company, you can see our numbers as well. Our packaging films business is also quite profitable. It's amongst one of the most profitable film companies in the country. And that is because of our competitiveness. We are hugely competitive, and also because of continued focus on our value added products. So within the thin films, there are many product categories where we are continuously working on, and over a period of time have our own niche segments where we work very closely with our customers for very high-end applications like high barrier metallized films, like very high-end coated films, all these segments where we create value for ourselves and for the customer.
Okay, so we are focused in that segment. Well taken, sir. Do you see the BOPP facing challenge because of the one polymer laminate requirement that the policymakers are focusing on and the recycling issues that are coming?
I would like to dwell upon a little bit more here. First of all, the policymakers are not saying one polymer laminate. The policymakers are saying the laminate has to be recyclable.
Correct.
Whether it is one or multi, it doesn't matter. So the first thing I wanted to tell is it's a complete myth that a multi-layer laminate is not recyclable. A multi-layer laminate is 100% recyclable. And Nidhi, if you know, in one of your conferences, Mr. Chaturvedi, I remember, he was one of the guest speakers, and he said that at Uflex, they already have this machine where the multi-layer laminate can be fully recycled. And therefore, and I know I have personally visited his factory and have seen this equipment. So therefore, first is it is recyclable. The second thing is that it is a theory by certain people. I would say where there is a bias towards another substrate, which is polypropylene, who have propagated this theory. But why not one layer laminate of polyester itself? Because one polymer does not mean only polypropylene. It could be one polymer substrates or laminates of polyester as well. So by the way, SRF is also working towards this because polyester is a very versatile product. It can handle high temperatures. It is very rugged. It can run good on machines. It is very good on printing. It has got a very high oxygen barrier properties. So we are working on the heat sealing properties of polyester. And we are again working with many multinationals and with very successfully. So, however, I still repeat that whether or not this is fully correct that a multi-layer laminate is not recyclable, I have my doubts. It is not a right statement to make. But yes, in the shorter term, there may be some little bit impact on polyester demand, but longer term, I'm very confident polyester is such a versatile product, it will come back.
So what you shared with us right now, where you're working on this polyester layer, when is this product you think is going to hit the market?
The way we are already working with customers and commercial supplies are happening with some customers and some large customers.
You are in technical textiles, and this huge demand on the non-woven, sir, is really coming into the market. I know myself of many converters who are putting up lines on this non-woven because of the huge demand. Have you any plans of foraying into that?
Well, honestly, first of all, that is not my business because textiles is run by another CEO. So, but I feel I don't think so at this point of time. But we continue to evaluate opportunities, and I'm sure the business would be. So, if they feel, they will surely enter into this segment.
Understood. It's such a vast group. It's like expansions everywhere. Sir, one question I wanted to hear, because you have so many multinational plants, is that what really happens? It's a tactical question. What really happens if one of your employees in the plant or someone contracts COVID? So does the government authorities come and close the entire plant, or they just quarantine the worker?
So I must tell you that first of all, we very proactively engage with the government. Whether through the CSR route or through any other route, we believe in proactively engaging with government. And very clearly, if one of the employees, let's say, contracts COVID, then the protocol is that section of that plant, only the section of that plant gets shut for, let's say, a day for sanitization. Few people who came in direct contact with that employees will be quarantined for a period of time. And of course, that employee will get quarantined for a period of 14 days, and unless he gets well and then comes back. So it's not the entire plant gets closed. It's only that section, and that also only for a period of a day where it gets sort of sanitized and then restart. So it's not that the entire operations will come to an halt.
Understood. And are you allowing visitors into your premises with proper checks and all? If some technical people need to come in for maybe installations or servicing, is that allowed?
Yes. So all very clear written down protocols. If somebody is visiting from outside, then you have to go into quarantine for a minimum period of 7 days or 14 days, depending on where you are coming from. And even after that, very clear thermal checks and oximeters and oxygen levels and all those. So very, very clear set out protocols for employees as well as for external visitors.
Okay, sir. Finally, I wanted to ask you that you being such an optimist and also learning from one location, implementing the best practices in the other, you would be doing all that. What are the learnings that you would like to share with our petchem and packaging colleagues in India and overseas from the experience of the multi-location plants?
So quite a thoughtful question, actually, Nidhi. So I must tell you, first thing which comes to my mind, my biggest learning is, and which is an SRF philosophy, and that is that safety of our people is paramount. So safety is, I would say, we just can't compromise with the safety of our employees. So I must tell you that to an extent that we've gone maniac towards safety of our people. The amount of protocols we have implemented, the amount of processes we have laid down. So, first is that while we believe that because we run chemical plants, we have very safe operations, our learning is that we have to be the best in the world, best across the globe in the safety. So that is my single biggest learning. The second, honestly, is that you have to remain positive. I know it is a difficult time, but unless you remain positive, you see the brighter side of it. How will you overcome such a big challenge? Another learning for me has been that while teamwork for me has always been important, in these difficult times, what has happened is that we've come together as even a more stronger team. So what we did was we met on an everyday basis. We charted out daily activities. Every senior member was assigned a task, and then we would meet again next day to see where are we. And honestly, as a result of such a close-knit teamwork, we are a family, I can tell you. SRF is a big family, and therefore, as a family, we came together. We took responsibilities. We ensured that we did what we were supposed to do, and we could successfully run our operations within a few days of the closure. We could quickly get up, walk, and then run. So we are running on 100% capacity. On the operations side, I can tell you, digitalization has been so there is a joke going around. What led IT revolution in your company? CEO, CFO, or COVID?
Okay.
So it is a big learning. The digitalization and automation, I think, is a big learning for me. Who could have imagined that we would do our operations sitting at home to such an extent that we are running our operations successfully as we were running from offices? So digitalization. The other big learning has been that the costs now I will look very differently. Some of the costs, for example, traveling costs and overheads, we thought that as if it is so important, while they are important, but now we are realizing that, the other day somebody was asking me, will your costs ever go back to the levels of pre-COVID? And I'm 100% sure they will never ever go back to the levels of pre-COVID. No. So realization on the cost itself has been a very, very important thing for me. And last but not the least, my learning has been, if you proactively engage with all your stakeholders, whether it is your employees, whether it is government, whether it is your society at large, I think then half of your problems are solved. Because, everyone wants to work. Everyone wants to give their best, even in difficult times. And if you engage with them very proactively, I think your job is half done. And this is what my biggest learning is.
Brilliant, sir. Just talking to you over this session, with your optimism and the sharing of your experience, how you've handled this is infectious. It's actually given me a lot of ideas what I'm going to do with my team. I am sure that there are going to be a lot of takeaways from this session to other leaders who are running their plants, their operations, who can learn from this session. We are going to thank you so much for your time and for this sharing. And we are going to see you soon on the other side, on the better side after COVID. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.